Today, I'm going to try and go through Dyno as fast as humanly possible while showing you how to actually set it up properly and not blow up your server. So to start off, you actually need to have a server, obviously, and you need to log into dyno.gg. Once you do log in, click on the server you want to add Dyno to, click continue, then you have a whole bunch of permissions. If you're just using Dyno as your single bot for admin and a whole bunch of other stuff, moderator, all the, just leave these. But if you're using Dyno for like reaction rules and stuff like that, then you can remove a lot of these permissions that don't pertain to your specific use case. Basically, these are very dangerous permissions to grant a bot. So if you don't need them, then remove them. But in this case, I'm just going to click authorize because I don't care. Click I am human, let that go through, and now you notice that the bot has joined my server, and once again, there it is. So on this specific server, I have a couple of channels. I have images, mod logs, spam logs, and those would be in an admin section. So for this specific server, I have admin, mod, VIP, and I have Dyno, which is automatically generated. I'm going to stick Dyno above VIP. You can stick it above mod and admin, but once again, you start getting into a little bit of a scary area regarding permissions. Click Save Changes, then press Escape, and now it's basically kind of set up for your server. Now you need to actually manage everything. So to start off, this is the dashboard page. Pretty worthless, to be honest. The main thing you want to look for is recent activity if you have admins controlling the bot, and also this section here where you can change the nickname of Dyno. You can change the command prefix, so you have multiple bots. You want to make them different so they don't cross-contaminate and react with each other. Then you have time zone. Just set it to your time zone. So in this case, it is America slash, no, not that one, but whatever. There we go. And once it sets the time zone, it'll automatically save. And now you have modules down here. I am going to gloss over modules that aren't really important, and I am going to focus on modules that are. AFK, not important, you can figure it out yourself. Action log, very important. Enable it, go to settings, then action log basically just shows you what happens on your server. So you can specify channels for each event, which I'm going to do specifically now, but you can also just turn it off and have a channel that will show all the logs that happen on your server. So I'm going to click specify channels, and what this allows me to do is I get to select which event shows on which channel. So in my case, if I go back to my Discord server, I have mod logs and spam logs, and this is kind of like two different hierarchies. I want mod logs to be less frequent, but more important, and spam logs to be all the other stuff that I really don't care about, but I still want to log. So if you're a small server, you probably care about people joining and leaving, but there's a lot of people that might join and leave, so stick that to spam logs for both of them. Then you have member banned. This is pretty important. I would set this to mod logs. Member unbanned, very important, set it to mod logs. Message edited, this could be in spam logs or mod logs, depending on how active your chat is. It's a good thing to look at because some people could have a normal message, then edit their message to something racist, and that's something you have to deal with. So I would set that as maybe spam logs, and spam logs for message deleted as well. Bulk message deletion, I'd put that in mod logs, just in case one of your admins or mods decides to just delete a whole bunch of random comments or messages. Channel created, that's pretty important. I'd call that mod logs. Channel deleted, mod logs. Role created, mod logs. Role deleted, mod logs. This is where it gets a little bit more tricky though. Role updated, once again, mod logs, but role given and role removed is very spammy. I have a whole bunch of color bots on my channel and color roles. So if I go there real quick and I go to get roles, I have a whole bunch of roles that you can get. And the unfortunate thing about this is that it fills up mod logs significantly. So if you have a small server, you can totally just turn both of these on to mod logs or spam logs. I would leave them off. Nickname change, that would be in spam logs, to be honest, because a lot of people change their nickname, but you do need to pay attention to it in case they change it to something racist. Moderator command use, that's mod logs 100%. Member join voice channel, this is all up to you. I really don't think it's worth having enabled, and the same thing with member left channel. Maybe member move to voice channel would be important, but that very much depends on what goes on. If you're afraid of admin abuse, put it in mod logs. If you don't really care, turn it off. And if you do kind of care, then spam logs. It's all up to you. Log invites and invite info. I would stick this on mod logs because it very much helps if people post invite links to your server. For example, I usually don't allow invite links, but when people spam it, I want to see what they're actually trying to send. If it's like NSFW or something, that's a pretty quick ban. If it's not, then, I could just tell them we don't allow links here. For the next option, there's ignored channels. Now this is good if you have, for example, an admin channel and you don't want changes in the admin channel to show up on mod logs that's available to all staff. Basically, it's up to you what to use this for, but I specifically use it because I have an admin chat, and in the admin chat I might say a couple weird things, I might edit a couple comments, and I don't want that to show up to the rest of the staff, i.e. promotions and other stuff like that. So ignore channels, set it as admin chat or whatever you want. Ignored roles, I personally would not turn any ignored roles on because you want to pay attention to what your mods are doing, what your admins are doing. Maybe yourself you could turn it off, but it's always good to have a paper trail so you know what's going on. And that is action log. Now, announcements is just a fun little thing to do. If you turn it on, it'll allow you to enable join messages, leave messages, ban messages, and you can send those messages as a DM. Honestly, don't send DMs because it's really annoying unless it's absolutely required and you have different channels and different variables and stuff, and you can custom code this yourself. I'm not going to go over it in too much detail because it's not very important for the function of Dyno. Next up, there's Autoban. Autoban's pretty advanced. I personally don't use it because I think it could be a little too kind of sensitive. But if you create a rule, you can set whatever you want for the name. But the rule type is basically if someone has a username that matches something you don't want, i.e. raids, then you can ban them instantly. If someone's username is an invite, for example, discord.gg/ntts or something, then you could also ban their account instantly. Or if they're a new account, if you're afraid of, people just making accounts and spamming your server, you can ban them instantly as well. Now, the main thing I want you to keep in mind is that this all depends on your server specifically. If you have a big server, you'll probably implement a lot of these. If you have a small server, then you might not implement any of these. And it also depends on the context of your server. I have a very much help channel based server, so a lot of people might not use Discord right away, so they'll make an account and join my Discord. And if I ban them instantly because they haven't had their account for an hour, then it seems pretty counterintuitive. So keep that in mind. Next up, there's auto delete. Now this is helpful for specific channels. I wouldn't use this for anything that's like if someone sends a message, delete it. I would do that through Discord and make it so that people can't send messages with a specific role and people who have a specific role can send messages. So just ignore that completely from Dyno. But this is great if you maybe just want your bot commands to delete after a while, which can be useful. You could always set it up better. But this is how to use it. You select the channel you want to delete messages from, general for example, and you add a filter, and in this filter you have a whole bunch of settings, links, invites, not invites, images, not images. There's a lot. The main thing I would personally want to do is remove bot commands from the general channel. So select starts with, and then implement your prefix, which is !, and click match all filters and press add. And what it will do is show you this black screen. You need to refresh. And now if someone puts ! command in the general chat, it will automatically delete. Mind you, auto delete will not delete messages by bots, mods, or admins, so keep that in mind. There's auto message, which just kind of sends random messages at whatever time interval. You can look at that. But there's Automod. Automod, this is where everything gets very advanced. So enable it, then go to settings. So to start off, you have enable auto mute, and basically this is just, I have no idea what it does. It seems pretty pointless. But then next up, you have disable default banned words, and if you go to banned words, you'll see all the default banned words. The main thing about banned words that I want you to focus on is that if you set your banned word to this word, rhymes with yum but starts with a C, then it works well if you set it to the exact word only. But if you have it so it matches any part of the word, it can send a lot of false positives. For example, there's this word, but then if you type in documents, it also has that word in it. So if you add this specific yum word with a C to match any part of the word, what will happen is words like documents will actually be considered as a bad word. So keep that in mind. If you have a bad word, make sure it's not actually implemented in a specific word. So for example, if you set this specific word down here to have it as match any part of the word, if someone puts cocky, which is not considered that bad, then they will also be banned or muted or whatever punishment you set. So just keep that in mind. Most of these are going to be default full ban words, where if they type out the full word and any one of the variations of it shown here, then it will count as a bad word. Going back to settings, we have a log channel. This one you want to set to Modlogs 100%. And now you have filter options, and this is where it gets really, really awful. So for filter options, you have a whole bunch of different scenarios that can occur. There are high severity scenarios, medium severity scenarios, and low severity scenarios, at least in my head. High severity scenarios would be someone saying the N-word. Low severity scenarios would be someone putting in, maybe spoilers, but it's just normal text and people just goofing around. So to start off, banned words, high severity. What you want to do with banned words is you want to delete them, warn the user, and after maybe they say a couple bad words all the time, you ban them or you mute them. So in this case, I am going to have it where it deletes the word, it warns the user, and after 3 times of them putting in bad words, it will mute them for 10 minutes. So click on delete, then click on warn, and now you have options of auto mute, instant mute, auto ban, or select all. You want to have auto mute because auto mute will activate after a certain amount of warnings, and then it will mute someone. Next up, there's all caps. Generally speaking, I just warn someone because chances are people are going to put in caps for a joke or something. But if you do care about people spamming caps all the time, you can have it as a delete. But your mods, your real life mods, should be able to pick that up. Next up, you have duplicate text. This would be a delete and a warn. This is kind of like a medium severity thing where people could just be spamming the same thing over and over again. So it's always good to delete it and warn it. And maybe if this is a massive issue, you could also turn on auto mute. Next up, there's fast message spam. I would just have it as delete and a warn. And if people continue doing it, once again, you can have a really strict auto mod or you can have a pretty relaxed one. In my server, my auto mod is very much based on if you say a very bad word, you get muted very quick. And if you do any of this other weird stuff, it's pretty lenient, but it's all up to you how you want to set it up. I'm going to let fast message spam just kind of be okay for now. Might seem counterintuitive, but it's all up to you. You have your own choice. Discord invites, I usually just delete and warn. If you have a whole bunch of people spamming all the time Discord invites, you could have auto mute once again. There's links. I let links go. It's completely fine. Next up, there's mass mentions, and I absolutely hate when people do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and click instant mute. Now what this will do is if anyone mass mentions, it will instantly mute them for however long I choose. Now I'll show you how to set the duration and stuff later on towards the end, but let's continue on to link cooldown. If someone sends a whole bunch of links, I usually just want to delete and warn. And if that's an issue on your server, you could have auto mute. It's all up to you. Image spam. I feel like image spam is really annoying, so I'm going to delete, warn, and auto mute. Emoji spam, really don't care about. So basically just go through this however you want. Most of the bottom ones are very much not really important. And self-bot detection, you might think, wow, that's really useful. It doesn't work. It just sucks. Straight up sucks. I've never seen Dyno snipe a self-bot out of general chat. So like I said before, you can actually set the duration and how many warnings someone gets before they actually get muted or banned at the bottom section here. This applies to every single one of the filters here that include auto mute or auto ban. So for example, for banned words, I want someone who says 2 banned words to be muted. But if someone spams duplicate text 3 times, I want them to be muted. And the same thing with all the other ones that have auto mute. I want it to be, you have 3 strikes, then you're out. So in this case, I'm going to have 3 mute/ban violations. I'm going to click update, and that's going to apply it to every single one of the auto mutes. But I said before that I want banned words to only be 2. So I'm going to click on the settings menu here, and this is where I can set a whole bunch of different options. So you can disable channels or disable roles, but the main thing I want to focus on is mute violations count here. I want it so basically if they swear twice, then I'm going to mute them for 10 minutes. And that's how you set that up. Click save. And now that is applied only for banned words. So anytime you click on the settings cog for one of these filter options, it only applies to that specific filter. But the things at the bottom will apply to every single one, and it will overwrite every single one. So just keep that in mind. Do the cogs at the end. Do this at the very start. Now, a couple more options are link cooldown. So this allows you to set how many links can be sent in however many seconds. So this is 1 link per 10 seconds. Then there's max emoji count and mass mention count. I would set this to 4 because if anyone mentions more than 4 people, they're probably mass mentioning. Anyways, scrolling down, you have ignored channels. So you can do this specifically for staff chat or admin chat or maybe tickets or whatever. Very useful if you want to, instead of being an offensive standpoint and saying mean words, it's more of an analytical standpoint. For example, for ban appeals or staff chat. But if you have really mean staff, you might just want to leave this blank. But for now, I'm going to leave it blank. And you have allowed roles. Once again, I personally would just leave this blank because this is a very risky thing to do. Then scrolling back up to the top, you'll see link blacklist and link whitelist. If you have all links disabled, this basically means every single link will go through Dyno. But if you have a link blacklist on top of that, it will block any specific link you add to the blacklist. So click on link blacklist, you need to add a new link, and I'm going to do the hub, but the one with the P in it and the horn. All you got to do is just type in the actual link, click on create option, then click save, then it will add it to the list and you refresh the page and you should be able to see your new link. Now this will work if you allow every single link and it'll allow you to block out specific ones. But if you go back into settings and you delete every single link, so if you set this to delete, then you need to use the link whitelist to allow certain links through. So if you delete every single link, but you want people to put out YouTube links or whatever, then you need to add YouTube to the whitelist. And when you do and click create option and press save, Now, every single link will be blocked out except for youtube.com links. Zooming back out, there's Autoresponder. Now, this one's just kind of fun. You can have it where people say a specific thing. You can react with a message, an embed, or an emoji. We have it all the time on my server where basically if you go there and you type NTTS or whatever, it'll show up with reaction roles. It'll probably appear somewhere in here. There we go. So yeah, it's just a little fun things that you can do. Or you could have it where someone puts help in the help channel. It'll give them, an explanation saying, we need a lot more than help to actually help you out. Next up, there's Autoroles, and basically, Autoroles suck. Don't use Autoroles on a single bot, because Dyno is down all the time, and if you use Autoroles to kind of block people out of content or allow people in content, then at some point, the bot's going to go down, and then people are going to be stuck infinitely with a role that they can't get rid of. So, avoid it. Then there's joinable ranks, and this one's really straightforward. Just select a rank, then click admin or whatever, click add, and they can join the rank however they want, and you have a couple settings here that are pretty useful. Now, next up, there are custom commands. Now, if you want to see custom commands that I use, just let me know. But the main thing with custom commands is that they are very intricate, very tricky, but they're also very useful. For example, I don't want my trial mods to be able to give people the early supporter role, but I do want my trial mods to be able to add people to the blacklist for our ticket system or add people to the blacklist for our DJ system. So to remediate that, I can't just give them a permission for specific commands because it doesn't work that way with Dyno. I have to create a custom command that only the staff can use, so the trial mods, that actually overwrites any permission and allows them to give people a blacklisted role or whatever. I could go into detail on that in a whole different video, but for now, there's a lot of options and you can do whatever you want. Next up, there's the Fun tab. Now, for the commands for Fun, you actually have to go to Commands and click on Fun. Just leave them on. You can turn them off later. Next up, there's Message Embedder, and if you go into settings, I've talked about embeds a lot, but you can have only up to 3 with Dyno, and it's pretty easy to go through, and it's self-explanatory. Next up is moderation. This is pretty important. If you click on settings, it will actually bring you to this section here. The reason why this tab is super important is because specifically of lockdown. If you ever had your Discord server raided, you know how painful it is to try and stop people from raiding it, and if you lock a channel, they'll just go to a different channel. Lockdown allows you to set specific channels to lock when you use the lockdown command. So in this case, lockdown, you want to set it to any channels that people can openly access. So general and images, and modlogs and spam logs would be technically in a staff category that's not public to everyone else. But basically what will happen is if someone calls the lockdown command, it will lock general and images, and if they want to end the lockdown, they need to do $lockdown space end. Now moving up just to the less important stuff, there's moderation log channel, moderator roles, and protected roles. Basically, these are just important things that you could have. So you could have a VIP protected role where they can't be muted, kicked, or banned. Kind of dumb, to be honest, so I'd leave that blank. Moderator roles, I personally think leaving it blank and having more customization in the actual commands portion is good. And there's modlog channels, don't worry about all this stuff. But the main thing you want to do is you have a couple options up here. You can DM users on kick, ban, or mute, which is helpful. Delete mod commands after executed, respond with reason. Whole bunch of options here. The main one I have is this one here. Now you have this next tab called Auto Punish, and basically if someone gets a certain amount of warnings, you can mute them, you could kick them, ban them, or you could add or remove a role, which I think is pretty cool. I personally don't use this. Now there's this reaction role thing here, and basically what it allows you to do is set different reaction roles. An example, this would be in my server. If I just go to get roles, it'll be up here. Dyno has an embed, and if you click on one of these roles, you get a specific role, and it gets called out in the announcements channel. Very straightforward, and honestly, I mean, it's all up to you. This is kind of the fun stuff you tinker around with, and it takes like 13 hours to do. There's reminders. Turn that off. It's boring. There's Starboard. If you care about Starboard, you could look into it. I personally think it's a waste of time. It's just easily abused, and it's something you could set up. It's up to you. I think it was worthless at the time, and I just keep it disabled. Tags are pretty cool. It allows you to set like a macro, so you could call like $tag help1, and when you execute that command, then Dyno will automatically paste in a whole bunch of text and put it into a message and send it. So it's really good for calling up like specific lines of text or whatever. Frequently asked questions, for example, if someone says like, what's your setup? You could do tags setup and then have that pre-programmed where it'll tell everyone your setup. And for the last option, there's welcome. Now you have short-term memory loss. This is also available in announcements. So I don't know why there's two different ones. Once again, Dyno's just kind of weird. And now for the meat and potatoes of everything, which hopefully should be quick enough, is commands. Now commands, you have a whole bunch of different commands, and Basically, this is all up to you to choose because I could tell you which ones I use, but in reality, most of them are straightforward. Just find what you like and find what you don't like, but I'll show you how to customize the permissions for it. So going into the Manager tab, you see a whole bunch of different commands, and if I go into Settings, this will actually apply a whole bunch of permissions to every single command here. So if I click on it, I have permissions of allowed channels, disabled channels, allowed roles, disabled roles. This is dangerous. This is a very dangerous thing to do because if I click allow roles and I do admin and mod, because I'm like, yeah, this is pretty important. Mods need some of these commands. I press save. What happens now is that admins and mods have control of every single one of these commands, and a lot of these are pretty dangerous. For example, you wouldn't want your mod to deal with Automod. You wouldn't want them to configure it, but you might want your mod to actually do purge. So to fix that, what I highly suggest you doing is going into your settings, and if you know for a fact that you don't want mods to have all these commands, but some of them, turn off mod, because you'd rather add permissions to people than subtract them, because if you forget to subtract a very important permission, that could be exploited later on and bite you in the rear end. So click save on that, and now mods cannot use any of these commands, but there are some helpful commands. For example, purge. Now for purge, maybe I want my mod to be able to purge a whole bunch of spam because someone was maybe spamming and they couldn't get banned because it wasn't severe enough, so you muted them. All you need to do is go to allowed roles, then click on mod, then click save, and that will now give your moderator access to the purge command. And the main thing I would highly recommend you doing is focusing on setnick as well for moderators. And you could do that for every single one of these. And that's the command section of Dyno. Now there's custom commands, like I said before, which you can have 25. They're pretty advanced. They're kind of hard to set up, and I would not focus on them right now, especially if I'm just glossing over a lot of stuff. Then there's logs at the bottom, which is really important because if you have maybe an admin coming in here changing stuff, at least you could figure out what's going on and revert the changes in case there were a mistake. I'm looking at you, Clux. Then you have warnings at the bottom. Now for the warnings tab, this is the important part that you want to keep your eyes on. This allows you to go through warnings very quickly. So for example, if maybe no text-to-speech was being mean and I was like warn, and then I copied his ID because that's the easiest way of doing it, and I said spam, then I will give them the warning, Dyno will give the warn, and if I refresh the page, now you will be able to see the warning that was sent. So the time, the warning ID, the user, the moderator, and the reason, which is helpful. Now chances are this really isn't important because you could also just do this in Discord yourself, like it's not that hard, warnings, and then I could see the warning. And if it was a false warning, I could just copy the ID. Then all I need to do is $del warn, and then paste in the warning ID, and it will delete the warning. And now I won't have to worry about it. If I refresh the page, it is now gone. But the only downside is that when you do actually send a warning and you go into your mod logs, that warning will still reside. It's kind of like it's a permanent record. And I guess while we're in the server, we could look at the mod logs. So once again, I have mod logs showing, commands, and also that's basically it, just commands. But if I go to spam logs, you can see that I deleted a whole bunch of messages, well, 2, and a member joined. So having your blogs kind of split is really good at making sure the important stuff goes through, like, whoa, this guy's using Modlogs a lot and he deleted a warn and he warned someone and deleted it, like what's going on, versus wow, he just deleted his message. It's very hard to go through the spam logs, so having your mod logs as important and precise as possible is the best possible thing you could do. And that's how you configure Dyno to at least a decent amount where you could run a server for a couple months. The main thing you want to keep in mind is just focus on your permissions and make sure you don't overwrite anything or give anyone too many permissions, because if you do, it could bite you in the rear end. Anyways, that's the whole Dyno tutorial. I hope it was helpful. If it was, let me know and subscribe if you want to. But that's it. I love you. Mwah!